Halloween is a good movie. Yeah, it just blew your mind. While it didn't create the slasher genre, there's at least 20 years of history preceding it. It certainly was a big step towards popularizing it in America.
Created a whole, industry of slasher films, from Friday the 13th, and any holiday wasn't safe anymore. You had New Year's Evil, Silent Night, Deadly Night, April Fool's Day.
The film is incredibly well written, cast, shot, scored, and directed. It's a classic for many legitimate reasons.
I wish I had you all alone, just the two.
I mean, it's incredibly romantic and dreamy and innocent and beautiful. And of course, you're counterpointing it with this POV of this killer behind this. I mean, it's just beautiful.
That's what makes these movies so universal. That makes them play in every country. We're all afraid of death, loss of identity, loss of a loved one, disfigurement, all the horrors of humanity. We all have them. We can all relate.
The film was critically acclaimed after word of mouth picked up, made a massive amount of money, launched the careers of many of the key figures both on screen and behind the scenes, spawned a media franchise, and continues to influence film to this day.
Because the truth is, I don't know anything about why he endures. I'm just glad he does because he's my buddy. It's like me and my shadow. I mean, where would I be without Michael Myers? You know what I'm saying? So I'm grateful to him for all of his badness.
I think the common framing of Halloween as a monolithic good, though, leaves an unanswered question. How did they make a sequel to it?
It was very funny because people who saw the picture thought we had set it up for a sequel. And, it was the furthest thing from our mind.
When the concept of Halloween 2 came along, nobody that I recall on the team was all that excited about the idea. We felt like we'd really done it with Halloween.
Dino De Laurentiis with Universal came, they wanted to do a sequel. A sequel, I thought, my God, that's not television, never heard of a sequel before. They said, no, we want to do sequel, and I said, well, I don't know. They said, don't worry, we'll give you a profit in advance. I said, okay.
I thought Halloween 3 was excellent. I really like that film because it's different. It has a real nice feel to it. I think he's a talented director. On the other hand, I think Halloween 2 is an abomination and a horrible movie. I was really disappointed in it. But I don't think the director has gone on and done some other films. I think his career is launched now. But I don't think he had a feel for the material. I think that's the problem. He didn't have a feeling for what was going on. And that is vital. Oh, yeah.
Before we start digging into what exactly happened to Halloween 2 to give it the mixed reception it holds, I'm going to give a quick summary of the film's plot found in commentary. That way I know everyone is on the same page. If you've already seen the film or you don't feel you need a refresher, you can skip to this time code instead. After the events of the first movie, Dr. Loomis runs outside to investigate Michael's disappearance before telling a neighbor to call the police.
Is this some kind of joke? I've been trick-or-treated to death tonight.
You don't know what death is.
Michael, meanwhile, steals a knife and murders Alice in her house. Laurie is taken out of the Doyle house to the hospital, where she is sedated against her will. Loomis and Sheriff Brackett, Annie's father, start investigating the town before Loomis stops the car and tries to shoot someone who resembles Michael. This leads to a fiery collision. Sheriff Brackett is told that Annie is dead and goes home to grieve, and Loomis goes to verify with a dentist that the person who died is really Michael. Michael arrives at the hospital Laurie is at and starts picking off the staff one by one. The dental report is inconclusive, and after seeing the town trash Michael's house, Loomis is informed of a break-in at the elementary, with cryptic notes left behind.
Samhain. It means the Lord of the Dead. The end of summer. The festival of Samhain. October 31st.
Marion Chambers, the same nurse from the first movie, arrives to tell him he is being court-martialed out of Haddonfield because
This thing is all over the state.
in the car, Marion reveals that in a secret file, it confirms that Michael and Laurie are actually brother and sister, which causes Loomis to force the marshal to go to the hospital. After suffering from a reaction to sedation, Laurie narrowly escapes the hospital, but a concussed Jimmy alerts Michael to where she is as Loomis and pals arrive. Failing to kill Michael again, Laurie and Loomis are forced into a back room, where they release flammable gas. Laurie barely escapes while Loomis sacrifices himself to kill Michael. The song Mr. Sandman plays again as Laurie is taken away in another ambulance. Roll credits.
Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream.
So, let's start with the positives. The film had the same cinematographer as the original, Dean Cundey, so how scenes are framed and executed are very similar. This movie takes place right after the first, and it maintains visual consistency, which couldn't have been easy.
I felt a certain, kind of obligation because, John and Deborah had given me such a great opportunity. So I decided that integrity was the better part of valor, and so I agreed to do Halloween 2.
The town is expanded on a lot more, with many characters having reactions to the murders in Michael. The scene where they're trashing the Myers house has a really unique energy that I appreciate.
The tribe. One of their number was butchered. This is the wake.
The subplot with the kid who accidentally bit into a razor was a neat way to show modern fears relating to the holiday. Considering that the film takes some steps to connect Michael to Samhain, the original druidic origins of Halloween, this adds connective subtext of Michael being an ancient evil in the modern age. Once everyone comes together at the end, while I have some criticisms, it's overall a pretty satisfactory conclusion. There's some memorable shots and important character beats. It focuses on the three main characters to an effective degree.
It's time, Michael.
Even the new rendition of the score, while it took me a while to get used to, is actually pretty good. It helps give the film an identity separate from the original just by having it be more synthesized and adding a beat. Michael Myers at the club, I don't know, add a funny joke here. Anyway, here's Alan Howard talking a bit about rendering the score.
Technically, I received the 24, at the time, a 16 track of John's original score that he did with a fellow named Dan Wyman over at Sound Arts. And so now I transferred that to a 24 track, got some open tracks, and basically I overdubbed me over John. So John was still there on tape, and then my overdubs is what shaped the sound of Halloween 2.
While acknowledging these positives, I still feel that the film suffers from a lot of fundamental problems that prevent me from really engaging with it the same way I do with other slashers. First, a big one, the film's structure. In theory, it's similar to how the original film did it, where it splits between Dr. Loomis, Michael, and the potential victims, particularly Laurie. We hang with Laurie and the gang so we can relate and care about them. We follow Loomis trying to find Michael and by proxy learn more about what Michael is doing. And of course, we see Michael stalk his victims and motivate the plot. Each component is interlinked, and without one, the movie falls apart. The problem with Halloween 2 is that it adopts a similar structure, but lacks interest in what to do with the same characters. Laurie is wheeled away at the beginning of the movie and spends the majority of her screen time either asleep or catatonic, which leaves her character feeling very stagnant. The only thing she really does outside of self-preservation is help Loomis blow up the hospital. Contrast with the original, where she has interests in a life outside the plot, she's aware of Michael a lot sooner than her friends, and when she's being chased, she makes sure to keep the kids she's babysitting safe.
Get in there, come on, Tommy! Now lock the door!
This is her defining characteristic, her compassion and innocence against a harsh reality.
The boogeyman can only come out on Halloween night, right?
Right.
Well, I'm here tonight. I'm not about to let anything happen to you.
Promise?
Promise.
You can definitely write a story about how she's lost innocence. The hospital is a lot more adult as a setting, so one could even interpret the story as Laurie transitioning to adulthood. But again, she isn't given enough material to develop her character, so this could be a more coherent theme. Gotta sleep sometime, I guess. So, Laurie's out. This shifts Loomis into being the protagonist, but he has the opposite problem where he's highly active, but most of his actions lead to narrative dead ends. This is particularly annoying with the Ben Tramer subplot, because we're shown that Michael's alive way before Dr. Loomis finds out he broke into the elementary. What is the point of this autopsy if it doesn't relate to anything? This leaves the plot moving forward not because Laurie decides to investigate or Loomis finds an important lead, but Michael chewing through enough runtime for the reveal to happen and the plot to wrap up. The denizens of the hospital, unlike Linda or Annie, don't have enough characterization or scenes to really understand who they are, so their deaths lack impact. Obviously, this is the problem with a lot of slashers that focus on body count rather than plotting, but I think it hurts more here because the original isn't like that. Along with this, the movie has a lot of rather clear-cut plot holes that make getting to that ending feel even muddier. When Michael is going for Alice, a news report on the radio is already confirming multiple deaths.
To repeat, 3 teenagers have been found murdered in a house in the northwest section of Haddonfield.
Despite only Laurie having an ambulance and later Sheriff Brackett being informed that Annie is gone.
They even found 3 bodies.
Where?
Across the street from the Doyle house. 3 kids. One of them was Annie.
The power in the hospital goes out for no reason given, and Laurie goes into shock hours after receiving a sedative. The sister twist is extremely convoluted. First, here's what Marion says about it.
There's a file on Michael Myers that nobody knew about.
I've seen everything.
No, it was hidden, sealed by the court after his parents were killed. Now, after the governor heard what happened tonight, he authorized Dr. Rogers to open it. That girl, that Strode girl, that's Michael Myers' sister. She was born 2 years before he was committed. 2 years after, his parents died and she was adopted by the Strodes. They requested that the records be sealed in order to protect the family.
Laurie was born 2 years before he was committed, then their parents died 2 years after, and the Strodes are the ones who requested the files be sealed. This is a plot hole because we know from Halloween 1 how long Loomis has been watching over Michael.
I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
Halloween 1 and 2 take place in 1978. He killed Judith in 1963. In other words, Loomis had 2 years to learn that the Myers had a second daughter before the file was sealed by the court. Considering how methodical and obsessive Loomis is about Michael, I have serious doubts he wouldn't have tried talking to his parents as part of treatment. Plus, the tidbit that the Strodes requested the files be sealed creates some weird character actions as well. Why do the Strodes live so close to the murder house? Or why does her now adoptive dad tell Laurie to drop the key off at the house before school?
They're coming by to look at the house at 10:30. Be sure to leave it under the mat.
The sister twist is trying to raise the drama and stakes, but doesn't. We already saw what Michael wants to do to Laurie. Having them be related doesn't make that dynamic any more interesting, and it creates contradictions and plot holes when previously there were none.
It was very difficult for that movie to be fully realized because not until after we were in the midst of shooting it, we realized we had the lead character of Laurie Strode comatose in a bed. She was not proactive, and it really didn't work, in my opinion.
I will say that what got me through writing that script was Budweiser, 6-pack of beer a night, sitting in front of the typewriter saying, what in the hell can I put down? I have no idea. We're remaking the same film, only not as good.
So, those are my issues. I think Halloween 2 is a messy film with potential it doesn't reach. End of discussion, right? Well, what if I told you there was a second cut?
Television is the future.
Quick history lesson. Before the boom of VHS, a lot of sequels to films had trouble deciding how much information to relay to newcomers to get to the point, without becoming grating to fans. This is why the early Friday the 13th start with these really long flashback sequences to just sort of append the last 5 minutes of the prior film to it. It's because the framework for conveying this is a sequel hadn't really been developed at that time.
My sweet, innocent Jason.
This is related of how important television was for relevancy. Before home media, often your only chance to catch an older release would be via TV, unless you had a film projector or something. Since alternate forms of distribution were rare or elsewise inconvenient, this gave networks a lot of control. Thus, a lot of films often have separate cuts specifically for TV that trim down to violence, language, and nudity. For Halloween 1, its TV rights were sold in 1980, and the television cut was released on TV the same day that Halloween 2 was released in theaters, October 30th, 1981.
It's Halloween, the night he came home, when the deepest fears are made real.
This cut has multiple scenes filmed during production of Halloween 2 that were added in to fill a 2-hour time slot and flesh out bits of the narrative.
NBC wanted to buy Halloween and put it on TV, but it wasn't long enough. They had a a running time of, I forget what it is now, and we were 2 minutes under or something, so I had to shoot additional footage.
Think of it like a form of retroactive backfilling, introducing plot points that weren't present in the original for a later installment.
What was it you wanted to show me?
Halloween 2 eventually got a television edit of its own. This one's strange in that it serves as both a heavily censored cut that removes most gore and nudity, but also as a glimpse of what the film was originally intended to be. Let's start with the negatives, and there's a lot. This version is presented in 4:3, the standard for televisions at the time it was made, and thus loses large portions of the frame. For scenes that formerly had 2 characters on either side of the screen, sometimes they had to edit it to be shot reverse shot, which looks really bad. The censorship edits were also very poorly done, creating really bizarre continuity issues and very obvious ADR.
Stop it! You're ignorant.
She's a damn moron anyway.
Every other word you say is either hell or damn.
Sorry. I guess I just foul up all the time.
Many scenes were also shuffled around, sometimes in a motivated way, but oftentimes seemingly at random. For instance, Laurie's dream sequence was moved to after Laurie is revealed to be in shock, and is edited to imply she didn't go back to sleep. The scenes where Loomis being court-martialed and learns that Laurie is related to Michael are extended and compressed together, which leaves the lead-up to the ending as seemingly endless scenes of running around the hospital. How great. Despite these issues, there's a lot of positives. Many additional dialogue scenes flesh out a lot of the hospital staff in small ways. The scene where Laurie is first sedated, for instance, ends with Mrs. Alves drawing the curtains to give her some privacy.
Out.
Mr. Garrett gets an actual introduction when Karen shows up, Laurie gets the coke Jimmy promised her, and so on. These changes add up and give more nuance to characters who are initially just stock archetypes.
You're getting all worked up over nothing. What's easy for you to say? I mean, you didn't hear Laurie Strode screaming about how Michael Myers is still out there and how he's coming to get her.
One of the most significant news scenes is Jimmy tell Laurie that Michael is dead. We can assume he learned this from news reports of Ben Tramer's death, it's not made clear. Laurie starts freaking out and is sedated while Michael cuts the power. This solves several problems compared to theatrical, which again never explained why the hospital turned dark or why Laurie went into shock, since there's no implication in that version that she was sedated again.
Emergency generator just kicked in. It's okay. I'm gonna have to talk to Mr. Garrett about this.
The ending is even different, with Jimmy revealed to be alive. This ironically changes the Mr. Sandman reprise to be happier in tone instead of dissonant like it was before, and kinda creates the implication that Michael got her a date. Awkward. Now you might be wondering why exactly does this version have so many different scenes, or why plot relevant scenes were cut. Well, let's look at the script. The script follows the structure of theatrical, with most of the additional scenes of the TV version interlaced in it. I won't get into every subtle dialogue change since they're mostly unimportant, but there's a lot of substantial changes worth discussing. First, in the script, the sequence that introduces Karen is actually a completely different scene involving a reporter who gets a flat tire. The same one asking for statements briefly in the final.
You need the parents' permission to use a statement. If you can't find the parents, get a statement anyway.
She tries to repair it before a creepy truck driver comes by to help. It seems like he might harm her for a bit, but he leaves and the reporter fixes the car right before Michael jumps out of the back and kills her. It's unknown if this scene was filmed at all, but a lot of other scenes bleed into it, and never got reshoots to smooth it over. Example, Jimmy tells Laurie that Michael is dead, but he only learns that from the reporters arriving at the hospital, which only happens because the reporter dies before confirming media interviews were okay. We have an existing photo confirming at least this scene was partially filmed, but nothing for the car scene. It's unfortunate too, because having this would allow the Ben Tramer subplot from Loomis's story to directly interact with Laurie's, fixing another problem. Narratively, this was replaced in reshoots of Karen's introduction, the slow Michael walk, with him learning via the radio where Laurie is, since he never learned this beforehand. Interestingly, this was not an issue in the script. During a scene where Laurie is taken to the hospital, they include a bit where Michael visually steps in frame to watch her go. Why this wasn't filmed similar to that reporter scene, we can only speculate. Maybe they only had the ambulance for a limited amount of time and rushed filming the shots needed for it. Maybe the reporter scene was too expensive. It's worth noting that Rick Rosenthal, the director, did not take care of reshoots. John Carpenter did.
Mark Goldblatt cut the majority of the picture. They called me to cut a TV version of Halloween 1, and I was in the next cutting room from where Mark and Rick Rosenthal were working. Deborah and John weren't happy with the director's cut. They asked me if I would come in and work on it with John over the weekend. And John and I went through the picture and cut about 14 minutes out of it. And John knew that he was going to write new scenes for the picture, and he wanted me to cut them.
John showed up on the set and Rick wasn't there, and I thought, well, what's going on? And the reason that they did that is that nowhere in the movie did it explain how Michael knew that Laurie Strode had been taken to the hospital. So he comes out and he's laying out a shot where this child is supposed to walk down the road with the radio on explaining where Laurie had been taken. And he bumps into Michael Myers, and then Michael heads off to the hospital. Then he shot, I think, the burning mask at the end, and there was another kill that I made, which never made sense to me, but I walk across the neighbor's yard right after the opening, and this gal's talking on a telephone, and I hide in her house and I cut her throat.
The sequence of Alice that I criticized was another reshoot edition. It actually hides the fact that Mrs. Elrod's screaming was supposed to be a match cut to the sirens playing when they go to pick up Laurie. A reconstruction of that would go as follows.
Here he comes now. I'm getting out of here.
This explains why this scene with Alice seems so pointless. It was done to increase the body count, but didn't factor in where in continuity it makes sense to put it. In certain interviews, John has been on record discussing how he felt Rick Rosenthal didn't understand the source material, as I brought up in the beginning.
I think that's the problem. He didn't have a feeling for what was going on, and that is vital. Oh yeah.
John Carpenter and Deborah Hill were the ones who wrote the script, and many key problems arise from their writing, the trouble during post-production reshoots, not Rick Rosenthal's direction. Characters feeling flat and lacking scenes? Re-edit. Boring scenes that don't advance anything? Reshoots. This isn't to say that John and Deborah are the only people at fault. Halloween 2 in many ways was a studio-mandated sequel that was going to be made outside of their involvement anyway.
But it was evident that the powers that be, who were in a position to do so, were gonna do it. That train was gonna leave the station.
I personally was not too pleased with the script when I got it. It was pedestrian. It was predictable. It was a professional script. I just felt that they were abandoning the essence of the character.
I just hated it. Somehow to me, Halloween 2 was summed up with that like hypodermic in the eyeball. It was just like, come on.
I'm disappointed in Halloween 2, I probably always will be, but I understand that the reason for my disappointment has less to do with it just being a bad movie nebulously, and more to do with how it was executed and who had final say over the cut released to theaters. Maybe in 15 years or something we'll get a final cut of the film that helps mitigate changes, similar to whatever's going on with Apocalypse Now.
It's longer than the 1979 version, but shorter than Apocalypse Redux, and it's the one I recommend to you as my favorite.
But maybe we won't. This film is effectively not canon thanks to the new sequel that made bank, which I feel weird about. Halloween 2, thanks to timeline wackiness, is an integral part of many iterations of the franchise. Every mainline film deals with the twist in some way, including the zombie remakes, which arguably makes it more influential than even the original film. Reboot sequels have become very popular in recent times. You know, Leprechaun Returns, The Exorcist TV show, Texas Chainsaw 3D. Attempts are made to either retcon most of the canon with only the original film still being present, or full reboots without the consent of the original creators, as with Black Christmas or Chucky. I like the new Halloween just fine, but it feels wrong to ignore 40 years of history in order to get it, no matter how I feel about the various sequels. How do we discuss the memorable moments and thematic underpinnings of this media when often there's a determination to ignore it under the justification that it's bad? Shouldn't we be trying to accept and understand art as is without revisions? I wish I had definitive answers, but I don't. Halloween 2 is a perfect case study of the intersections between authorship, franchising, and the complexities of creation within those frameworks. With the examples I pulled from 3 separate versions of Halloween 2, we've seen how radically a film changes between initial conception and final release, and what choices made through the process of collaboration truly mean. Halloween is still a really exciting idea, and while it can be tempting to frame it as a miracle or something, that isn't the truth. Every film has its problems, and every film is shaped by the events of its creation, even the classics. Knowing this doesn't prevent the good, but knowing the good shouldn't prevent knowing the craft.
You know, I think whenever a director directs a film, there are always factors. Filmmaking is not a pure art.
it's a collaborative art. And you know, if you want to paint, you paint. If you want to sculpt, you sculpt. And those are single-person decision-making arts. But filmmaking is very much a group effort, a collective. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a sense of this auteurship, you know, that the director is the author of the film. And I think that's true when it's a personal story and it's autobiographical and the director's written the script and all of that. But, you know, there are times also when you're hired and you're hired to do a certain kind of job.